Welcome to episode 12 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shy. What's going on, fellas?
Yo.
What's going on? What's up?
Back at it. Let's get it.
Back at it another week, another crazy week in the NFL. What do we have? The most games that came down to the gun and ended on a game-winning field goal or some type of game-winning play.
In NFL history, right? That's what they said.
Yeah. Crazy week. And we kind of talked about it early on in the first episode where we said that it's a lot of parity in the league and the league is going to be close. And, it's already past the half past the season, and we still haven't seen anybody really break away. So
yeah,
it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. And we just saw a big firing in the OC for the Buffalo Bills.
They had to do something.
But we'll get into that. Go ahead and start off with the weekly review. And honestly, we can kind of start there. That's the last game we saw, most recent, biggest thing on the mind. What'd y'all think of the game, Broncos, Bills?
Say him. Let's ride.
Broncos country?
Let ride. No, man, that was a big game for the Broncos, man.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Even if they don't end up making the playoffs this season, like, they turned it around these last couple of weeks, and that's all you can really ask for at this point. You know what I mean? So, it was good to see that from the Broncos, see a little bit of fight, but this was more about the Bills than anything, I think. And I think we all agree with that. It's just it's tough watching a team that you had high expectations for come out and be 5-5 halfway through the year in a tough AFC conference where you cannot afford any slip ups like this. So it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah, that was tough.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was about to say that was tough for them. It was just like everything just went against them. You could say Josh Allen had turnovers, but the first interception he threw, went through the receiver hand. You can't do nothing about that. The first possession, running back fumble. It was just bad all the way around, and they had a chance at the end, but then you get 12 men on the field.
It's just a lot of selling going on right there.
Just a lot.
And that's kind of where I want to go with it, since you mentioned the 12 men on the field, and it ultimately starts to come down to coaching. Obviously we saw Ken Dorsey, unfortunately lost his job this week. It has been replaced by Joe Brady. It'll be interesting to see. Everybody's been early on when Joe Brady was the OC for the LSU Tigers, and they went with Joe Burrow and all of them. Everybody thought that he was going to be the next guy, but he's bounced around with the Panthers and now with Buffalo. So it'll be interesting to see. They didn't really have any rhyme or rhythm to their play calling. Even that last pick, it was, everybody, or the second pick where he left it inside. It was, everybody was locked up. It's like they don't have a legitimate, consistent secondary threat outside of Stephon Diggs. And honestly, I'm thinking that at the end of this season, Sean McDermott is probably going to be out of there. At this point, you've lost a defensive coordinator, or you fired a defensive coordinator kind of out of the blue, or not even fired. Actually, he retired. I'm sorry.
He retired. And then Sean took over.
And it clearly looks like him and Brian Daboll didn't have a good relationship, and now you fire another offensive coordinator. But it's not looking good. What were you going to say?
What do you think? Like, you think this was the right move to kind of move forward at this point? I don't think they had their bye week. Their bye week in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, bye week in
2 weeks. 13.
Yeah, so they haven't had the bye week yet. Was it the right move to get rid of Ken Dorsey right now? You know what I mean? And if you would have won, and I heard this too, like if they didn't have 12 men on the field, which is not Ken Dorsey's fault, is Ken Dorsey gone this week? Probably not, which is crazy how it shakes up like that. Which, something had to change. And if you're not going to fire McDermott, you got to switch it up somehow. But it was a little bit, something had to happen, but it was a little bit out of the blue for that, in my opinion, for Ken Dorsey to let go.
And
maybe it was in the works. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Those decisions maybe are already on the top of mind.
Yeah.
At that point in time, you would hope that he's not making any rash decisions, or like I said, he will definitely be up out of there sooner than later.
To me, because statistically wise, they are top. Their offense is top in the league in most categories. And it's like, okay, what's the issue? Now, he is, turning the ball over. But this is something we talked about at the beginning of the season. Like, this is one of them teams that's like, hey, this kind of y'all last year, get right or change is going to happen. I mean, we seeing it now. If they don't make the playoffs, Sherman Durden out of there. That's just point blank, period.
And another change that needs to go is Stephon Diggs. Get that man out of there, man.
Hey, that's what Trayvon said, huh? What y'all think about that though? Like your brother tweeting that, and then double back on it with another tweet. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I hate to be that guy, but that's just not somebody I'd want on my team. Honestly, like he's a great player. But when at this point you're starting to put a track record on your name. We obviously saw the issues that he had with Minnesota that led him to go to Buffalo. And now, I mean, what are we doing? At worst, Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback in the league, and this is how you dogging him. And
so like where do you where do you go if you're Stephon anyway?
What do you want? What is your goal? What is it that you want? You left Minnesota presumably because you wasn't the number one option. You are the number one option. You are the option.
You want to go to Kansas City, I guess, or something. I don't know. Maybe to the Cowboys.
Maybe. But Kansas City would be good though.
Even then, this is what I'm thinking. Like, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm sitting there looking like, hey, if this man's saying this shit about Josh Allen, Trevon Diggs saying this about Josh Allen.
Dak ain't Josh Allen now.
What are we gonna be looking at Dak like that? And you go back to how people were talking about when he called him a bitch ass nigga and during training camp.
Training camp, said
it expect him. And, that was overblown and BS. That's just during training camp.
That's just talking shit,
but I mean, people are definitely gonna come back to that video because he's saying that he liked the tweet talking about the Bills have gotten worse every year. I mean, what you think the Cowboys about to do? Is the Cowboys about to go? It doesn't. No disrespect, but right now it's not looking like the Cowboys are about to make some serious noise. So are they? Is that regressing every year?
It's interesting. It's interesting.
I mean, even if you go to Cowboys, it's just gonna be this. It's gonna be the same situations as he was with the Vikings. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is their number one option, and to bring in Stephon Diggs, you basically hindering CeeDee Lamb from being the number one option. So it's gonna be some turmoil at some point. It don't. I mean, I don't know. So,
but maybe a change in coaching at the end of the season will provide a breath of fresh air. Get some, because they haven't drafted well either, and it might not be just coaching. So GM knew everything really.
A lot of questions in Buffalo. A lot of questions in Buffalo. Sitting at 5-5 is terrible halfway, and
then they have the toughest schedule moving forward. They got the Jets coming up. The Eagles. They play Chiefs,
Cowboys, Dolphins to close the year.
It's gonna get treacherous.
It's crazy how like the first 5 games look compared to these last 5 games. Just the instant switch.
Think about how they just smacked the Miami Dolphins after they put 70 on the Broncos, and then the Broncos coming back to beat Buffalo, like coming full circle.
Right.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. That's the definition of this season, though, for sure.
Definitely. But moving forward, another definition of this season is injuries at the quarterback, and we can look to the Browns versus the Ravens. Probably, some would say Deshaun Watson's best half or best half of football since he's been with the Browns, with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And today we get the news that he has a fracture in his shoulder and he's out for the rest of the season. So that's what the 4th quarterback with Anthony Richardson, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and now Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers is talking about he's going to come back mid-December. I don't know about that, but that's a tough outcome for Cleveland.
Daniel Jones too.
Oh yeah, Daniel Jones too. Forgot all about him. But that's tough. That's tough because at this point it's 2 years into the Deshaun Watson project, and you haven't gotten very good results from him. And now at this point, they've kind of gone all in. I don't know if you guys have seen his cap hit moving forward, but it's $63 million for the next
Yeah, they
3
said
years.
he will have the highest cap hit out of everybody for the next 2-3 years.
3 years.
That's
And
crazy.
how do you move forward?
What do you do?
How do you
What
move
do
forward?
you do? I mean, you're stuck with him. You're stuck with him. So you might as well, like, I don't know because this team is damn good, man. Like, this team really has a legit shot. So it's not to say like, okay, they do got this huge cap hit, but they're not like a terrible team. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're just playing to shine. You're not, playing to shine and then just whatever.
That's when
but
these contracts start to come, because Greg Newsome's playing well. Jeremiah Owusu, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, but he's playing well. It's gonna start getting a little dicey for him. Amari Cooper, he's gonna come up again here soon. He's getting a year older. Are they gonna look to get another receiver? They already traded Donovan Peoples-Jones out. To kind of look at Cedric Tillman and continue on with Elijah Moore. Nick Chubb's coming off.
Sound crazy. They might have to move on from Chubb.
But who's gonna take Chubb? I mean, at this point, he's coming off a major knee injury. Not who's gonna take him, but what are you gonna get? A 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick?
I mean,
at that point,
I'm talking about money wise.
But I mean, yeah,
it's a tough situation in Cleveland for sure. And I mean, they have nobody to blame but themselves. I mean, to be honest with you, because everybody saw this. Everybody said this when the contract happened. Everybody, and we're in it. This is exactly why you don't give that type of contract to
But getting back to the game, tough ending for the Ravens. I mean, they were smacking them boys to start, and it's just unfortunate turnovers. You get a interception, pick 6 to tie the game up off bouncing off somebody's helmet. I mean,
call that shit a stride,
and it's just clean though. It was, and Deshaun Watson made some plays with his legs at the end of the game. And it's just tough. The Ravens you could arguably say should be undefeated right now, and just keep having these tough losses. What did you guys take away from that?
Kind of what I saw, and I think I did pick the Ravens with this one, but the turnover thing is seriously, like, that has to get corrected. I mean, he had a bad one on, like, I don't know if it was like a fade route. I don't know what the hell it was, but he like short armed it. I don't know what happened on that one, but it's like you got to cut these out, because you're sitting there playing around with teams. That's kind of what you've seen them do with like the other teams. They don't play around with them. They they got up early and stayed up, but they played around in this one. Let the Browns get momentum, which they shouldn't have got at all. It was a bad look for the Ravens, but I still think they're still like top of the AFC. Like, this didn't really change my mind about the Ravens, but they really got to take advantage of this.
And they've got a tough schedule coming up too.
Yeah, so you can't give up games like this. But it's also like, I mean, the Browns are for real, man. It's a good team. It is well coached. The offense could be better, but it is a well coached team, and they know there's no doubt in their mind that they can
sneak that
win.
in right there. Did you see that, bro? Why this nigga try to sneak the drink in?
Yeah.
What?
I'm gonna try. Nick ass.
Yeah. But it's a well coached team. There's no doubt in their mind that that they will win most of these games.
Yeah.
And they have that confidence. So it's a division game. So you know how that shit is, especially that division. So you can't be shocked at it, but the Ravens could have put this away and should have.
They needed to, because big game coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Huge game. But what about you, Chris?
I mean, they're gonna be straight, but like y'all both were saying, like, man, turnovers, that's the easiest way to lose a game. Losing the turnover battle, that, especially against, I mean, like you said, division opponent, that's one of them games where if you get up, you have to keep your foot on the gas, because they know you. They know you better than anybody else. So out of any team, they're going to be the ones that are going to be like, yeah, we can hang with y'all. Y'all not nobody to us. Y'all just in our division. So you give them that little momentum and that. And then, I mean, like we said earlier, Deshaun Watson might have had his best half of the whole season. playing on a
14
broken
to
shoulder
14.
or whatever the case
Yep.
may be. But I mean,
Yeah.
if they clean up the turnover, they're gonna be straight. I still don't think nobody in the AFC can just handle them.
That's fair. And then you know what? It's funny because you hear all today on like in national media coverage saying how like if the Browns would have just kept Josh Dobbs, they will be pretty set right now.
And no disrespect to Josh Dobbs,
But
and we
I
can
do
honestly
disagree with that though.
we can go ahead and take that into the Vikings versus the Saints. But did people not remember that the Cardinals were like 1-4 before they traded him, 1-5?
And
Like
one
what?
1-6, yeah.
They had hot starts there, and I mean they lost a lot because they weren't consistent on offense. No disrespect to Josh Dobbs. I mean he's playing well, and we even saw that in this game versus the Saints. I don't think any of us expected it to go like that. Where they just came out the gate whooping their ass.
They whooped that ass.
And
it ended up being close, but it really wasn't.
I guess the more so is Josh Dobbs is probably one of the better competent backup quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, they was losing to Arizona, but they were competitive in most of their games.
He makes plays.
I mean, you pair him up with a team that has a defense like the Browns do, it could set him up better, I should say.
You think, but at the end of the day, he's a backup, and it's always gonna come. That time is always gonna come. You're gonna be like, damn, he's a backup. Like it's always there's always that limitation when you start playing the Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs or Miami or something, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, he ain't matching them throws. What's going on here? So.
No, they dogged the Saints though, and I was like, that's a Saints need to win that game. They kind of set them back, and of course, we talked about it at length over the past few weeks about the NFC South. They lost a lot of ground with that loss, but still have a chance to win it, which is crazy. But
I mean, they do, but what's the point, man? Their team is not good. That just highlight how bad a team is, and it's like what we talked about last week about what's the turning point. And it's like, okay, they can still win the division, but is it good for them to win the division? They're not going to get a good draft. Well, their draft pick will be further back. I'm not even sure if they have their first round pick this year, but even if they do, it'll be further back than what it would be, and they need help. They need help. That team is not good, and that's and then they in a bad spot, I should say. Like they needed to lose this season at this point. But I mean, if you win it, then it's like, oh well.
But you host a playoff game,
The only thing about it is that Derek Carr's locked in, number one, number two. Losing out, they've gone all in. They've got.
I get that. I'm saying now they in a position where they can't lose out or nothing like that.
And then it's a log jam at the top or at the bottom with it's a lot of teams that are ass. It's a lot of teams. It's a lot of bad teams right now.
Looking at it, it's a lot of like, ugh.
Especially because of like the Giants. I mean, we're seeing it with backup quarterbacks with, the Giants. They just got waxed. The Jets can't score, and that's a number 2 overall pick and backup. The Colts, Gardner Minshew started off hot scoring. Now they're struggling to score.
Mac Jones getting benched.
Jones getting benched, and
the game on the line.
Happy immediately throwing a pick like 3 plays later on a fake spike. It's a lot of bad teams. It's a lot of bad teams. So, it's no shame in winning, but the defense does have to step up. Like the defense on the Saints hasn't played well through the season or played up to expectation, and the offense it continues to be a work in progress. Derek Carr got hurt again, and that's kind of been what his career has been. Honestly, every time he kind of is needed, he ends up getting hurt. Unfortunately, Jameis, he kind of got put in a bad, I don't want to say a bad spot. He came in once again, backup quarterback immediately. He had an ugly touchdown where he just, it worked. But he threw it up, tried it again a couple times, and it was pick city. But Minnesota, I mean, that's another big win for them. Continue on their streak without Justin Jefferson. And
Yep.
you know, he practiced. I know we said that last week that they might hold him out to kind of see how the game's going to go, and it's exactly probably how they wanted. And he's coming back, and they got to. Here's going to be the Josh Dobbs game that we need to see coming up on Sunday Night Football against Russell Wilson. Can you keep your team in the playoff race with going against a team that's trying to get back into the playoff race and kind of redeem themselves? So that's really where we're going to see.
This Sunday Night Football, we'll talk about it too later, but this Sunday Night Football game coming up kind of turned into a good game. You know, a couple of weeks ago we were like, "Oh, this shit gonna be trash." You know, you got
it's gonna be ugly still, but
it's gonna be ugly, but
it's gonna be
this
ugly.
is still a very important game for both of these teams. Like, we didn't think it would be that important for their season,
I mean,
but it is.
It's definitely gonna be ugly because Russell and them boys. I mean, he ends up having 2 touchdowns, 190 some yards, and another 100 or 100 passer rating, but the boys couldn't score. They couldn't move. I mean, he was taking sacks unnecessarily. It's just it's gonna be ugly. But they got. I mean, following the Broncos. I mean, it like we talked about it earlier in the season before Kirk got hurt. But Bears after, then they get into a bye. They got the Raiders, who I mean, they've gotten a couple good wins, but we'll see how that continues to go.
Yeah.
They do have a couple tough games with the Bengals and the Lions, but at this point, if the Bengals lose this week, it's kind of slim pickings for them too. So Vikings can make a little run. We'll see.
We'll see.
And Josh Dobbs will earn his money. But moving forward to the Bengals.
Yeah, let's talk about those Bengals.
Tough loss. And tough loss coming into a short week. You got T. Higgins out again this week. Trey Hendrickson, I saw, is going to play, but, you know, he hyperextended his knee.
Surprising that he's playing. Honestly, I didn't think he would, but that's how important this game is, though. That he's going to.
It'll be interesting to see how effective he is because he has been a good player for them over the past couple of years since he signed there from New Orleans. But
yeah,
tough game. But I mean, it seems like a weekly thing. We're talking about C.J. Stroud, but tough game for the Bengals. What y'all think?
The Bengals needed that one. They needed that one. They have, because of their start and because of their division, they have no room for error, and that was an error.
Last in division right now.
So it's they can't afford to lose this game. Honestly, on Thursday, this is like as close to a must win as you can get in the middle of the season, towards the back half of the season now. But again, this was C.J. Stroud, man. He's showing what he got, man. He's got it. You know what I mean? Like, you could tell that he's a NFL quarterback. You could tell he's going to have hopefully a good career. And as long as they can build off of it, put the right pieces around him, right coaching and everything. But he's got it, man. You can really see like the ball placement, the confidence. You know, he did have a terrible mistake. The big pick six at the end, but you know, he came back. And that's the thing about too. Like, you know, when I talked about this too with like Desmond Ridder, because he had like 4 game-winning drives. But why are you in a game-winning drive? You know, you are part of that reason, and that's kind of what happened with CJ. But he got him down the field. You know, they got a big, field goal at the end to win that game. And I mean, it's a huge game for them. And like D'Amico Ryan's got like coach of the year. You know what I mean? Like, he gotta have that shit. You know, he gotta be. I don't know the odds, but he gotta be.
I'm sure it's going to be I mean, as we get closer to the season, or towards the end of the season. And we'll see how their season ends, and it's an opportunity. They're in the thick of the playoff race. I think right now they're actually 7 in the standings. So if the playoffs were or if the season were to end today, they would be in the playoffs. So I mean, he's got some competition, but you know, he's got a good chance. But
especially with Jacksonville, which we'll talk about after this, but.
You said it earlier this week, and C.J. Stroud's probably locked that. I mean, not probably. He's locked the Rookie of the Year up completely. Big win for them. What'd you take away, Chris?
Man, that shit was tough. I mean, the Bengals, they could not have lost that game, man. I'm sorry. This put them like way behind where they need to be because they haven't won a division game yet, have they? And so it's like now you
Big
got
game.
another, you got an actual division game tomorrow, and it's like, well, shit, you gotta win. You at this point, I gotta win out.
Yeah.
But like I
Honestly,
said, man,
pretty
CJ
much.
Stroud, hey, that boy tough.
And it was
That boy tough.
not only she as well as CJ Stroud played. I mean, Joe Burrow had a couple, uncharacteristic picks. When as they got close, he had one in the end zone. And
Terrible pick.
they gotta stop getting themselves in these holes where we saw it last year and it worked for them. Is this something that we're gonna start to see with the Bengals that we're kind of seeing in Buffalo? Because the first year they made it to the Super Bowl, obviously, the first year they made it to the Super Bowl, obviously they lost that game in a tough fashion. Then we're moving to the next year, they lose against Kansas City in a tough game as well. Started off poorly this season. T. Higgins has been in and out with injuries, and his contract is coming up as well as Jamar Chase. Are we going to see where T. Higgins is gone next year? How is that going to look? This is a big week. This is a big week for them. If they lose this game, I mean, we talked about it earlier in the season, and they proved us wrong. Where we said we kind of left them for dead, but it might be time to leave them for dead for real this time. And we'll get into our picks later, but I'm interested to see what you guys say.
It is interesting because you did call this. This is huge on Zach Taylor. What I mean? This is, and if you don't turn the season around, it's gonna be some question marks still. What I mean? So it's a lot, but I still like this team. That's the thing, though. Like, I still think that they could win 6 of their next 7. You know what I mean? Or however many games they got. I still think they could win a lot of games and win tomorrow. But the position they're in is not ideal, and it'll be a lot of question marks after this one for sure.
That's for sure. But Houston, I mean, moving forward, they've got the Cardinals. They got Jacksonville. That's going to be a huge game because that's probably going to be a game for
division,
the first in division, especially because they've already beaten Jacksonville. So, that's a huge game for Jacksonville. And looking to Jacksonville, they had a huge game this week. I told y'all.
You were waiting on it.
I told y'all.
You were waiting on it.
I told y'all. I'm just letting that be known right now.
No, it's been funny. It's been funny seeing all the tweets about you shared one in our group. Like how many quarterbacks got more touchdown passes than Trevor Lawrence? I mean, you got 9 touchdown passes in 9 games.
Mm-hmm. And
that ain't good.
It's not just Trevor Lawrence. I talked about Calvin Ridley. He's kind of been a little bit ineffective as the season as we gotten further and further into the season. He's a free agent coming up. What does that look like for them? Obviously, we're getting ahead of ourselves because they are first in division right now, and they're obviously been a pretty good team for most of the season.
Yeah,
but that was a dominant win for the 49ers and in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And they had no answers. And, that's when we talk about, there was people saying Trevor is a top 3 quarterback. Obviously, quarterbacks have bad games. That's a game at home that you can't just not make no noise at all.
Whether you win or lose, you shouldn't lose in that fashion at home.
Don't put up 3 points, 3 points.
And we've been talking about, elite quarterback. He's this, he's that. And at this point, it's CJ Stroud you could say is arguably the best quarterback in the division right now. It really shouldn't be an argument, but, giving his respect because of what he did last year, Trevor Lawrence I talked about it earlier in the season. He's put together bad tape for majority of his games, and people, obviously what we expected of him coming into the season, it's starting to we need to start talking about it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But Brock Purdy, what'd you guys think?
No, it was a huge bounce back game for the 49ers. I mean, we talked about that too. I did pick Jacksonville, but the bye week was huge for this team just to get people back healthy. You know what I mean? Yeah. They got Debo back. You can see the offense was just flowing. I guess it gave a chance for Kyle and Brock to get back on the same page. You know what I mean? And how they want to rock it out with the offense. Christian McCaffrey, a little bit healthier after his injury. So it's not like looking at it hindsight. It's not surprising that they whooped that ass like that. I mean, 49ers are a good team. I just didn't think it'll be like that game will be like that, but they're a good team, so I'm not really surprised. Like they really did have a lot of injuries that really messed up the flow. So
I take more of their defense, man. Their defense has not been playing up to standard the last few games, and they came and dominated today. Whether that's Trevor Lawrence being sorry as hell or or whatever, but they defense showed up. They like you said, they finally they got their left tackle back and they got Debo back, so the offense looked much better. But I look at it as they defense showed up. They defense played like they have been like they played at the beginning of the season and all last year. These last 3 games in a row that they lost. I mean, defense looked confused out there at times, and they straight up dominated. So they trying to assert themselves as the top dog again, but they not.
I'm not gonna let you guys get away with this. We need to mention Brock Purdy as well. He made some great throws,
and he made a throw that should have been picked. His first touchdown should have been a pick. That was terrible.
That's a great pass.
And that would have changed it. I personally believe that would have gave Jacksonville momentum. That's just me, but that was ass.
No.
It's all about moments.
No.
I'm not gonna cap you down. Brock Purdy played well. And
dot
again
to George Kittle up the seam.
Under pressure.
That was a dot.
That was a dot. I mean, it was good to see, but again,
a lot of dots out there, man.
Not surprising that this happened after a bye week either, though. So they were able to kind of reset in a way. You know what I mean? And he needed that.
He definitely needed
more
that.
than anybody. Like he needed that, especially if we don't know what happened with his mental. With the concussion, he was seeing the field all wrong. So he did look good. Not gonna lie, but it's Jacksonville, so we'll temper it.
Yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna see as the season goes. Because, like I said, the Texans got a easy game. Well, actually, you never know with Kyler coming back. We didn't even mention the return of Kyler Murray, who ended up, coming back and leading the game-winning drive.
Yeah, huge plays.
But they might not just be some tough or some weak team just to walk over. I mean, they really haven't been over the season anyway. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Jacksonville's got some things to look at and consider. But moving towards our last game with a review, Lions versus the Chargers.
Yeah.
Seems like the Chargers always have these games.
Yeah, what a shootout. Huh?
Shootout, back and forth. Dan Campbell going with the big call on fourth down to ultimately win the game. Jared Goff continues to play well. And, after early on in the season, we kind of talked about him a little bit as an MVP candidate. And then, it kind of died off. But, he's one to be considered. He's playing excellent. The run game was excellent. David Montgomery returned.
Yeah.
We still need to see a little bit more from Jameson Williams, but what did you guys take away from the Big Lions win?
Man, that game was fire. Just back and forth, especially at the end of the game. Just scoring back and forth. Ain't defense being played now, for real. But that was a good ass game by the Lions, man. They really trying to come together. Like you said, you want to see a little bit more from the outside receiver trying to make some bigger plays. But they gonna be a tough out, especially with their schedule coming up. They can easily be the number 1 seed at the end of the year. But at the same token, this sucks for Chargers. Damn. And the thing is, the head coach, he's supposed to be a defensive guy, man. Their defense has not been good at all this year.
It's going to be a lot of changes next year. Probably getting Derwin out of there. Come to the
you got it. Yeah, what? Shit. Maybe you never know. But it was a good game. Mack. Of course, Khalil Mack got to get out of there. This is a game where whoever had the ball last will go win this game. But I think it showed that the Lions can win in different ways. They can have these shootouts. They can grind it out with the run game and other games like we've seen this season. And kind of control the game that way. Amon-Ra St. Brown is not getting enough love for what he's doing this season. This guy is really
top 10 receiver in the league.
But yes, for sure. He's been snapping consistently. like
consistently
every single week
of his career, basically. Since he took off like towards the end of his rookie season, I mean, he's just been consistently getting you like 8 for 100, 8 for 100, 9
like
for
I'm
100,
saying,
10
you,
for
you
100.
could book it. Like that shit is happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was good to see him on the other side. Keenan Allen had a great game. Man, it was what a game. And then the Jared Goff, MVP talks, it tailed off because of you have that really bad game against the Ravens, and then you have a bye week. So it's just nobody's been talking, and then they're already the Lions. So nobody's really talking about them. But it's not like he's kind of stunk it up out of nowhere. You have one bad game really, and I mean, everybody in the MVP discussion right now has had that one bad game, except for probably CJ, which I mean, but yeah.
Nah, because he was terrible against the Panthers.
Oh yeah, he did lose that game to the Panthers. I mean, but stats wise,
yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. And I do want to stay there for a little bit because I was having a conversation with one of my friends, talking about Dak Prescott. Obviously, we've seen a little bit of the conversation where RG3 had Dak Prescott as kind of an MVP candidate, and obviously statistically, he's played well. But in my opinion, Parsons. I was like, yeah, Micah Parsons said he should be in the conversation as well. In my opinion, I was like, look, statistically, he's having a great season, but as far as an MVP, for me, like an MVP has to have those MVP moments, those MVP games. And we've already seen a couple opportunities against, obviously, the 49ers. That would have been the talk. If they would have whooped them or at least beat them, he probably would be up there. You already lost. People want to say that he played well against the Eagles. I mean, at the end of the day, what do they put up? Like 22 points? Like
22 points. You were at the 6-yard line and didn't score.
It's
you missed
tough games that you've lost, and then they've got a tough stretch coming up. They play the Lions. They play the Eagles again.
The Bills, the Dolphins.
The Bills, the Dolphins. Yeah, they've got some tough games coming up as well. So, but that kind of goes to what you said. Everybody's kind of had that tough game. So who, at this point, do you think that the MVP could go to a non-quarterback?
Ooh,
this would be the perfect time to look at it.
This would be if it were to happen with how these quarterbacks are playing. I mean, because you can't give it to Pat. He's had a stinker.
Lions.
Like this. This would be the season if you were to have a non-quarterback MVP. It would come from this, but who would be that?
You can maybe argue that Jalen Hurts is probably the only person that hasn't had that stinker against a top team, because I'm also looking at that. Like, obviously,
okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, they lost against the Lions in their first game. I mentioned Dak with the Eagles and the 49ers. Obviously, we saw Jalen Hurts have a bad game against the Jets, but aside from that,
stinker.
Yeah, aside from that, and they really should be undefeated at this point. Aside from that, he's showing up in every game. They whooped on the Dolphins. Obviously, we saw the Cowboys game. So all the big games that they've had thus far, and then we'll see. And we're about to get right into that. We'll see on Monday night. Damn, I didn't even realize it was going to be on Monday night till I saw it the other day, and I was like, oh, that's the perfect Monday night game, especially after, even though the Buffalo Broncos game was close, it was kind of ugly. We kind of had an ugly week of primetime games.